The sound of laughter and clinking glasses filled the air as Michael Cross stepped into the grand living room of his home, which tonight felt more like a stage set than a sanctuary. The festive evening was in full swing, a celebration of his and Anna's 20th wedding anniversary. Guests mingled, champagne flowed, and the night seemed perfect on the surface. But Michael couldn't shake the strange weight in his chest, a feeling that had grown in recent weeks. Anna, radiant in a sapphire dress that hugged her figure, was the center of attention, her laughter ringing out like chimes in the wind. Yet, Michael noticed how her smile faltered when their eyes met, how she kept glancing at her phone when she thought no one was watching. As Michael approached the drink table to refill his glass, one of the servers handed him a folded piece of paper. "This is for you, sir," the server said quietly before walking away. Michael opened the note, his heart skipping a beat. "She's planning to leave. Check the study. Now." An ominous discovery. Michael's mind raced as he weaved through the crowd, keeping his expression neutral. He pushed open the door to his study, a quiet retreat away from the noise of the party. The dim light from his desk lamp cast long shadows across the room. On the desk lay an open envelope. Inside were 2 plane tickets for a flight departing in the morning, one of them in Anna's name, the other for a man named Elliot Price. Michael's breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled as he pulled out a letter beneath the tickets. "Michael, I didn't want to tell you like this, but I can't stay. Elliot and I are leaving tomorrow. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me one day. Anna." The room spun as Michael sank into the chair. 1,000 thoughts bombarded him at once. Questions, anger, disbelief. How had he missed this? How long had she been planning it? And who was Elliot? The party's facade. Michael returned to the party with the note and tickets still in his pocket, his mind a storm of emotions. He scanned the room until his eyes landed on Anna, her hand resting lightly on the arm of a tall, well-dressed man who had remained a stranger to Michael until now. Anna laughed at something the man said, her body leaning toward him ever so slightly. The intimacy of the gesture sent a jolt of fury through Michael. He approached them, forcing a smile onto his face. "Anna, darling," he said, his voice steady despite the storm raging within him. "Mind introducing me to your friend?" Anna froze for the briefest moment before turning to Michael with a carefully composed smile. "Michael, this is Elliot Price. We've worked together on the charity board." Michael extended his hand, gripping Elliot's firmly. "Pleasure to meet you, Elliot." "Likewise," Elliot replied, his tone smooth and confident. But Michael saw the flicker of recognition in Elliot's eyes, a momentary falter that confirmed his worst fears. The confrontation deferred. Michael decided not to confront Anna then and there. The party was their anniversary celebration, after all, and he wasn't about to make a scene in front of their friends and family. But he couldn't let the night pass without answers. As the last guests filtered out and the house grew quiet, Michael cornered Anna in the kitchen, where she was putting away the champagne flutes. "Who is Elliot Price?" he asked, his voice low but firm. Anna froze, her back to him. "I told you, he's a colleague from the charity board." Michael stepped closer, pulling the tickets from his pocket and placing them on the counter. "Then why do you have 2 plane tickets for tomorrow? One for you and one for him?" Anna turned slowly, her face pale. "Michael, I can explain." "Explain?" Michael interrupted, his voice rising. "Explain how you've been planning to leave me for another man? How you've lied to my face while pretending everything was fine." Tears welled in Anna's eyes, but Michael's anger didn't falter. "How long has this been going on?" Anna swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "A year." Michael's chest tightened. "A year?" "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," Anna said, her voice trembling. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why?" Michael demanded, his voice breaking. "Why, Anna?" Anna looked down, unable to meet his gaze. "Because I fell in love with him." The night's collapse. Michael stood there, stunned, as Anna's words echoed in his mind. The life they had built together, the memories, the love, the promises, now seemed like a fragile illusion, shattered beyond repair. "I need to go," Anna said quietly, wiping a tear from her cheek. "I'll stay in the guest room tonight. We can talk more in the morning." Michael said nothing as Anna walked away, her footsteps fading into the silence of the house. He remained in the kitchen, his hands gripping the counter as he struggled to process what had just happened. But one thing was certain: this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows, mocking Michael with its warmth. He hadn't slept. Anna's words, her admission of a year-long affair, played in his mind on a cruel loop. The house felt different now, its familiar comfort replaced with an unsettling emptiness. By the time Michael heard the faint sounds of movement upstairs, he had already resolved to find out the full truth. A clue left behind. Michael waited until Anna left the house, claiming she needed time to think. As soon as she was gone, he headed to the guest room where she had spent the night. The bed was unmade, and her overnight bag sat on the dresser, unzipped. Michael's eyes landed on a journal, partially hidden beneath a pile of clothes. His hands shook as he picked it up and flipped through the pages. It wasn't a diary, as he'd suspected, but a planner. Inside were notes and dates scrawled in Anna's elegant handwriting, meetings, events, and one word that caught his attention: Elliot. Several entries bore his name, often accompanied by cryptic notations like "finalized plans" and "safe location." Michael's stomach churned as he scanned the dates. One entry, from 2 weeks prior, read, "Key transfer. Confirm details with Elliot." Key transfer? What key? Following the trail, Michael knew Elliot worked for the same charity board as Anna. He logged onto the organization's website and searched for Elliot's profile. There it was, a polished headshot of the man who had stood beside Anna so intimately the night before. The profile listed Elliot's role and a contact email, but more importantly, it included his business address, an office downtown. Michael grabbed his car keys and drove there, his thoughts racing. He parked a block away and waited, scanning the street for any sign of Elliot. After nearly an hour, he spotted him, dressed in a tailored suit, briefcase in hand, stepping into a coffee shop. Michael followed, his heart pounding. A confrontation in shadows. Elliot was sitting alone at a corner table, scrolling through his phone. Michael approached, his anger barely contained. "Elliot Price," Michael said, his voice low but firm. Elliot looked up, surprised. "Michael," he said, feigning a smile. "What brings you here?" Michael didn't sit. "Cut the act. I know about the tickets. I know about the affair. What I don't know is why. Why my wife? Why now?" Elliot's expression shifted, his charm replaced with a cool indifference. "You should sit down," he said, his tone even. Michael reluctantly took a seat, glaring at the man across from him. "It's not what you think," Elliot began. "This isn't just about Anna and me." "Then enlighten me," Michael snapped. Elliot leaned in, his voice lowering. "Do you know how much your wife has sacrificed for you? How many dreams she put aside to support yours?" Michael's chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" "Anna deserves better than a man who doesn't see her," Elliot said, his words cutting deep. "And she found that with me." Unanswered questions. Michael clenched his fists under the table, fighting the urge to lash out. "You think that justifies sneaking around behind my back? Breaking up a marriage?" Elliot leaned back, his gaze steady. "Sometimes things break because they were already broken." Michael's anger flared. "You're not just stealing my wife. You're lying to her, aren't you? There's more to this than you're saying." Elliot's smirk faltered for the briefest moment, a flicker of unease crossing his face. "I don't know what you're insinuating," he said, but the edge in his voice betrayed him. Michael leaned forward, his voice sharp. "You're hiding something, and I'm going to find out what it is." The discovery that evening, Michael revisited Anna's planner, searching for anything he might have missed. One entry, marked with a red star, read, "Meeting, warehouse, Thursday, 8 p.m. The date matched tomorrow. Michael's pulse quickened. A warehouse meeting didn't sound like the rendezvous of two lovers. It sounded like something far more suspicious. He decided he would follow her. The stakeout the next night, Michael parked a safe distance from the address listed in the planner. The warehouse loomed in the shadows, its windows dark. He waited, the minutes stretching into what felt like hours, until he finally saw Anna's car pull up. She stepped out, her movements quick and deliberate. Moments later, another car arrived, Elliot's. Michael's heart raced as the two disappeared into the warehouse. He waited for a few moments before slipping out of his car and following on foot. Inside the warehouse, Michael peered through a crack in the warehouse's doors, his breath catching as he took in the scene. Anna and Elliot stood near a table covered in documents and what appeared to be blueprints. The dim light made it difficult to see, but Michael caught snippets of their conversation. "This has to be perfect," Anna said, her voice steady but tinged with tension. "It will be," Elliot replied. "Once we finalize the transfer, there's no going back." Transfer? Michael's mind raced. Was this about money? Property? Something more dangerous? Suddenly, Anna turned toward the door, as if sensing she was being watched. Michael ducked out of sight, his heart pounding. A shocking possibility back in his car, Michael tried to make sense of what he'd seen and heard. Whatever Anna and Elliot were planning, it was far bigger than an affair. Was Anna being manipulated? Or had she willingly become part of something illegal, or worse? Michael stared at his phone, debating whether to call the police, confront Anna, or dig deeper into their plans. One thing was certain. The woman he thought he knew had become a stranger, and the truth about her intentions was far darker than he could have imagined. The hours after Michael's discovery in the warehouse were a haze of confusion and dread. He couldn't shake the image of Anna standing over those documents, her voice calm but resolute. The words, "finalize the transfer," repeated in his mind, growing heavier with each iteration. What could Anna possibly be transferring with Elliot? Money? Property? Or was it something far more dangerous? Michael knew he couldn't wait any longer. Whatever they were planning, he needed answers before it was too late. A return to the warehouse the following night. Michael returned to the warehouse, determined to uncover the full scope of Anna and Elliot's scheme. The building was quiet, the eerie stillness broken only by the faint creak of rusted metal in the wind. He slipped inside through a side door he'd noticed the night before. The interior was dark and cavernous, the faint smell of oil and dust hanging in the air. Near the center of the space, the table he had seen from the doorway was still there, though the blueprints and documents had been cleared away. Michael's heart sank. Just as he was about to leave, his foot brushed against something small and metallic on the floor. He bent down, picking up a key ring with a single label, Unit 42. The storage unit. The address on the key led Michael to a storage facility on the outskirts of town. It was the kind of place people used to stash items they didn't want prying eyes to see. Michael hesitated outside Unit 42, the key cold in his hand. His mind raced with possibilities, each more alarming than the last. Taking a deep breath, he inserted the key and turned. Inside was a collection of items that only deepened the mystery. A laptop, several manila folders filled with documents, and a large duffel bag sat on the floor. Michael unzipped the bag, his breath catching when he saw stacks of cash, neatly bound in plastic. The documents in the folders painted an even darker picture: property deeds, offshore bank account details, and correspondence between Elliot and Anna. The pieces began to fall into place. They weren't just running away. They were orchestrating an elaborate financial heist. A devastating revelation among the documents. One letter stood out. It was addressed to Anna in Elliot's handwriting. "Anna, once the transfer is complete, we'll leave everything behind and start fresh. Michael won't suspect a thing until it's too late. You've been incredible throughout this, and I can't wait for us to be free." Michael felt the words like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated destruction. They weren't simply leaving. They were planning to rob him blind and build a new life with his money. A confrontation brewing. Michael returned home, his mind a storm of fury and betrayal. He sat in the darkened living room, waiting for Anna to return. When the front door finally opened, she froze in the entryway, her eyes locking with his. "We need to talk," Michael said, his voice cold and steady. Anna's expression shifted, the mask of calm she'd worn for weeks cracking. "Michael, I Save it, he interrupted, standing and tossing the letter onto the coffee table. I found everything. The storage unit, the money, the accounts. I know what you've been planning. Anna's face went pale, and she took a step back. I can explain. Explain? Michael's voice rose, anger finally breaking through. Explain how you've been lying to me for over a year? How you plan to steal everything I've worked for and disappear with him? Anna's eyes filled with tears, but Michael's rage didn't waver. Was any of it real, Anna? Or was this always part of your plan? Anna's defense. Anna sank into a chair, her hands trembling. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. At first, it was just about the money. Elliot convinced me it was harmless, that we were taking from people who didn't deserve it. And I suppose I was just collateral damage? Michael spat. No. Anna's voice broke. I didn't want to hurt you, Michael. But by the time I realized how far it had gone, I couldn't back out. Elliot, he has connections. He threatened me. Michael stared at her, disbelief warring with fury. Do you expect me to believe you're the victim here? That you had no choice but to go along with this? Anna met his gaze, tears streaming down her face. I swear, Michael, I never wanted it to end like this. I still love you. Love? Michael scoffed. You don't destroy someone you love. The ultimatum. Michael stood, his voice icy. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything. Every detail, every lie, every part of this scheme. And then you're going to help me stop Elliot. If you don't, I swear I'll take this to the police myself and let them deal with both of you. Anna nodded slowly, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I'll tell you everything. Good, Michael said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Because this isn't over. Not by a long shot. Michael sat across from Anna in their dimly lit dining room, the table between them now a battlefield of conflicting truths and emotions. The letter, evidence from the storage unit, and their fractured trust lay as stark reminders of the betrayal. Start talking, Michael demanded, his voice low but laced with fury. Anna hesitated, her hands gripping the edge of the table as though it were the only thing grounding her. Elliot approached me a year ago, she began, her voice trembling. It started with small things, consulting on accounts, making connections. He said it was about exposing corrupt executives. It sounded noble, Michael. I thought I was doing something good. Michael leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. And the cash? The offshore accounts? The plane tickets? Anna's gaze dropped to her hands. It stopped being about justice months ago. Elliot said we deserved something for the risks we were taking, that we'd earned a fresh start. By then, I was in too deep. A deal with the devil. Michael's fury burned hotter. In too deep? You were planning to rob me blind and run off with him. Don't act like you didn't have a choice. I didn't. Anna shot back, her voice breaking. Elliot isn't who you think he is. He has people, dangerous people, watching everything. When I tried to back out, he threatened to destroy us both. I was terrified, Michael. Michael folded his arms, his expression hard. So, what now? You help me stop him, or you take the fall with him. Your choice. Anna nodded slowly, her face pale. What do you want me to do? Laying the trap. The following day, Michael and Anna devised a plan to turn the tables on Elliot. Using her connection to him, Anna would lure Elliot into a meeting under the pretense of finalizing their escape plans. Meanwhile, Michael contacted a trusted attorney and his brother, Sam, who had connections with law enforcement. Together, they prepared to expose Elliot's scheme and ensure Anna's cooperation was documented as part of a plea bargain. The meeting was set for the following evening at the same warehouse Michael had visited earlier. The plan was risky, but it was their only chance to regain control of their lives. The meeting begins. Michael waited in the shadows near the warehouse, his pulse racing. He watched as Anna entered the building alone, carrying a bag that appeared heavy with cash. She was mic'd, her words relayed to a team of law enforcement officers waiting nearby. Inside, Elliot was already waiting, his demeanor as cool and confident as ever. Anna, he said, standing to greet her. I was beginning to think you'd changed your mind. Anna forced a smile, her voice steady despite the fear she felt. I've got everything. This is it, right? Once we're gone, it's all behind us. Elliot nodded, his smile widening. Of course. Just one more thing. I need to confirm everything is in order. A shocking twist as Elliot began to inspect the bag. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression darkened. You've been busy, haven't you? Anna froze. What are you talking about? Elliot held up his phone, displaying a live feed from a security camera showing Michael outside the warehouse. Did you think I wouldn't know? Panic surged through Anna, but she held her ground. Elliot, I don't know what you're talking about. Spare me, Elliot snapped, his charm replaced with cold fury. You brought him into this. Do you have any idea what you've done? He pulled a gun from his jacket, leveling it at Anna. You think you can outplay me? The climax outside. Michael heard the exchange through the earpiece and felt his blood run cold. He's onto her, he whispered into the radio. Move in now. The law enforcement team burst into the warehouse moments later, their commands echoing through the space. Drop the weapon. Hands in the air. Elliot turned, his face twisting with rage. You think you've won? You have no idea who you're dealing with. In the chaos, Elliot lunged toward Anna, but Michael charged in from the side, tackling him to the ground. The gun skidded across the floor as officers restrained Elliot, his protests falling on deaf ears. The aftermath as Elliot was led away in handcuffs. Anna collapsed into a chair, trembling. Michael approached her cautiously, the weight of the night pressing down on both of them. It's over, he said, his voice steady but weary. Anna looked up at him, her eyes filled with tears. Michael, I'm so sorry. For everything. Michael nodded, his face unreadable. We'll deal with that later. Right now, we need to clean up the mess you helped create. The aftermath of Elliot's arrest was a whirlwind. The police worked quickly to dismantle his network, using the evidence Anna had provided to uncover the full scope of his crimes. The news spread like wildfire, casting Elliot as a master manipulator who had defrauded charities, corporations, and individuals alike. But for Michael, the public spectacle was secondary. His life had been upended, his trust shattered, and the woman he thought he knew was now a stranger. The fallout. A week after the warehouse raid, Michael sat in his attorney's office, reviewing the details of Anna's cooperation agreement. Her willingness to testify against Elliot had earned her leniency, but she wasn't entirely off the hook. She'll face probation and some fines, but no jail time, the attorney explained. Given the circumstances, it's a fair deal. Michael nodded, though fairness felt like a hollow victory. What happens now? He asked. That depends on you, the attorney replied. You've been named a victim in all this. If you want to pursue divorce or damages, the law is on your side. Michael stared at the papers in front of him, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Anna's plea that evening. Michael returned home to find Anna sitting at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly around a mug of tea. She looked up as he entered, her eyes filled with uncertainty. Michael, she began, her voice hesitant. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know how sorry I am. Michael remained silent, crossing the room to pour himself a drink. I let myself believe Elliot's lies, Anna continued. I convinced myself that what we were doing was justified, that I was helping us. But I see now how wrong I was. I betrayed you, and I'll spend the rest of my life regretting it. Michael turned to face her, his expression unreadable. Do you really expect me to believe this was all Elliot? That you had no choice? Anna's eyes brimmed with tears. I made choices, Michael. Bad ones. But I want to make things right. If you'll let me. A difficult decision. Michael sat down across from her, his voice steady but cold. Making things right doesn't erase what you've done. You lied to me, you put everything we built at risk, and you were ready to run off with him. Anna nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know, and if you can't forgive me, I understand. But I love you, Michael. I never stopped loving you. Michael's jaw tightened. Love? You call this love? Anna's voice broke. I don't know how to fix this, but if there's any part of you that still believes in us, please, let me try. The turning point over the next few days, Michael grappled with his emotions. Anger, betrayal, and heartbreak warred with memories of the life he and Anna had shared before Elliot entered the picture. He spent long hours walking through the park where they used to stroll together, replaying moments from their marriage in his mind. For every memory of happiness, there was now a shadow of doubt. One evening, he found himself at the storage facility where he had discovered the first clues of Anna's betrayal. Standing in the empty unit, he felt the weight of the past weeks bear down on him. What's left to save? He wondered. A meeting with Sam. Michael met with his brother, Sam, at a local bar to sort through his thoughts. So, what's the plan? Sam asked, sipping his beer. Michael sighed. That's the problem. I don't know. Part of me wants to walk away and never look back. But another part, I don't know if I'm ready to give up completely. Sam nodded thoughtfully. You've been through hell, Mike. No one would blame you if you left. But if you think there's even a chance to rebuild, you owe it to yourself to explore it. The conversation that night, Michael sat down with Anna again. This time, his tone was softer, though no less serious. If we're going to have any chance of moving forward, it starts with complete honesty, he said. No more secrets. No more lies. Anna nodded, her expression earnest. I'll tell you everything. Whatever you want to know. Michael leaned back, his gaze steady. Why did you do it? Not Elliot's lies or the money. Why did you let it go this far? Anna hesitated, then took a deep breath. I felt invisible, Michael. Like I was just part of the furniture. Elliot made me feel seen, important. It was intoxicating, and I let it cloud my judgment. Michael's heart ached at her words, though he didn't let it show. That doesn't excuse what you did. I know, Anna said softly, but I want to find a way to make it right. If you'll let me. A fragile truce over the following weeks, Michael and Anna began the slow, painful process of rebuilding their relationship. Counseling sessions were tense but productive, forcing them to confront the cracks that had formed long before Elliot's arrival. Michael remained guarded, unsure if he could fully trust her again. But as they worked together to repair their lives, he saw glimpses of the woman he had fallen in love with, the woman who, despite her mistakes, was fighting to make amends. The epilogue: months later, Michael and Anna attended a small dinner party hosted by Sam. It was their first social outing since the ordeal, and while the scars of betrayal were still present, there was a newfound understanding between them. As the evening wound down, Michael caught Anna's eye across the room. She smiled, a small, tentative gesture that spoke of hope. Michael smiled back, his heart heavy but open. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in months, he felt ready to take the first step. The fragile truce between Michael and Anna had held for months, but the wounds left by her betrayal still lingered beneath the surface. Michael had thrown himself into work, using the distraction to avoid confronting the deeper questions that haunted him. But a gnawing sense of incompleteness remained. Despite Anna's efforts to rebuild their trust, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she hadn't told him, something that Elliot's arrest hadn't resolved. It wasn't until a quiet Sunday morning, as Michael sorted through a stack of unopened mail, that the past came roaring back into his life. An unmarked envelope among the bills and advertisements was a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph and a short note. The photo showed Anna and Elliot sitting together in what appeared to be a cafe. But it wasn't the intimacy of their posture that struck Michael. It was the date in the corner, time-stamped nearly 3 years earlier. She lied to you, Michael. The truth is much older than you think. Michael's chest tightened as he reread the note. His hands shook, and a wave of nausea swept over him. 3 years? That would mean the affair had started long before Anna claimed, long before Elliot had even mentioned his supposed noble cause. The search for truth fueled by anger and a need for answers, Michael confronted Anna that evening. He tossed the photograph onto the table, his expression cold. Explain this, he said, his voice sharp. Anna's face drained of color as she picked up the photo. Michael, I don't know where this came from. Don't lie to me, Anna, Michael said, his anger boiling over. You told me it started a year ago. This says otherwise. Anna's hands trembled as she placed the photo back on the table. I didn't know how to tell you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael slammed his hand down, startling her. So it's true? You've been lying to me this whole time? Tears welled in Anna's eyes. Yes, she admitted, but it wasn't what you think. Not at first. A hidden agenda. Anna took a deep breath, her voice trembling. Elliot didn't just come into my life a year ago. He's been involved in it for much longer. And it wasn't by accident. Michael's anger gave way to confusion. What are you talking about? Elliot targeted me, Michael. From the very beginning, Anna said. He knew about you, about your business, your connections. He wanted access, and I was his way in. Michael stared at her, the pieces of the puzzle rearranging themselves in his mind. So, what? You were just another pawn in his game? Anna nodded, her tears falling freely now. I didn't see it at first. He was charming, persuasive. He made me believe we were equals, partners. But over time, I realized he was using me to get to you. A dark connection. Michael's mind raced. To get to me? Why? Anna hesitated, then pulled out a folded piece of paper from her purse. This was in the storage unit, but I didn't show it to you before. I didn't think you'd believe me. Michael unfolded the paper, his breath catching as he read it. It was a contract, a hit contract. Elliot hadn't just planned to ruin Michael financially. He had intended to eliminate him entirely. Elliot wanted everything, Anna said. The money, the assets. And he saw you as an obstacle. Michael's hands shook as he stared at the contract. Why didn't you tell me this before? Anna's voice broke. Because I was ashamed. I let him get close enough to put us both in danger. And by the time I realized, it was too late. A fatal warning. As the weight of Anna's revelation sank in, Michael's phone buzzed. The number was blocked. He hesitated before answering, his voice wary. Hello? A distorted voice came through the line. You think it's over, but it's not. Elliot was just the beginning. Michael's blood ran cold. Who is this? The line went dead. The final twist. Michael turned to Anna, his voice urgent. We're not safe. Whoever Elliot was working with is still out there. Anna's face paled. What do we do? Michael grabbed the photo and contract, his mind racing. We find out who's behind this. And we end it. But as they prepared to leave the house, a dark car pulled up outside, its engine idling ominously. Michael glanced out the window, his heart pounding. Stay here, he told Anna, grabbing the bat he kept by the door. As he stepped outside, the car door opened, and a man in a sleek suit emerged, holding an envelope. He handed it to Michael without a word before getting back in the car and driving off. Michael opened the envelope, his hands trembling. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a chilling message. Elliot was expendable. We're watching. Don't make the same mistake he did. The endgame. Michael returned inside, his resolve hardening. This isn't over, Anna. Not by a long shot. Anna clung to him, her voice trembling. What do we do now? Michael's gaze was steely as he replied. We fight. Together. But deep down, he knew the battle ahead would test them in ways they couldn't yet imagine, and survival would come at a cost neither of them could foresee.